This is Your City Could Be Better, because it could be. I'm David Plotz. If you love your city and still complain about it, you're in the right place. Claudia Meza, what is the most annoying thing you have witnessed while out and about at night in Portland?
I think just the fact that there aren't enough things open past 10. Like our downtown area also in particular just becomes a little deserted, a little ghost townish.
So the annoying part is there's not enough stuff happening for you.
Oh, 100%. And it's interesting because we do have like the most strip bars per capita. So the sad irony that we cannot sustain, a thriving nightlife when I feel like we have all of the ingredients, and it's just not there yet.
So Claudia's Portland, Oregon may soon become the latest American city to have a night mayor. And you have to say that phrase carefully. It is a mayor of the night, a night mayor, known less poetically as a night economy manager. The night mayor is the person who helps businesses that are open at night and their customers. So nighttime parking regulations, nighttime police patrols, permitting, how to manage late night noise, when is last call. These are the kinds of questions that night mayors have to grapple with. It is a concept that began in Europe and has now migrated to the US, where I think 16 cities have a night mayor or some form of night economy manager. So Claudia Meza, you're the host of CityCast Portland. What is driving the move for a night mayor in your beautiful city?
Well, aside from the need of wanting a more vibrant nightlife, I think right now, currently our city council president, Jamie Dunphy, is looking into making this role a reality. But if I could be perfectly transparent, David, we might have also had a role in bringing this idea to the forefront in a discussion on the show. During our last mayoral race, we had this amazing candidate, Lee Vostis, a.k.a. Viva Las Vegas, single mom, writer, activist, musician, one of our city's most iconic strippers. Her policy ideas felt like they could strengthen our downtown core where she works. And when she lost, like we all kind of assumed she would, including herself, we lamented how strong of a candidate she would have made if we had a mayor of the night. She was well-respected, connected, all the stuff. So last year, we actually brought on Philly's night economy director, Raheem Manning, on the show, asked him what he does exactly, talk through whether Portland could benefit from this type of leadership. And pretty soon, the city was reaching out, asking us for our opinions. And I don't want to pat ourselves on our back, but I think we for sure helped. I think it's all gaining traction now because our mayor is focusing his sights on downtown. And I think Jamie Dunphy, our council president, has always just been night mayor curious.
So in Portland, you already mentioned that maybe one of the problems the night mayor could address is not enough night activities. What are other challenges or annoyances specific to your city that you think a night mayor could help with?
I think just overall declining foot traffic downtown, especially, and all the social issues that brings. Portland has never been a 24-hour city, but pre-pandemic, we did have a much livelier downtown where certain streets would get shut down for the weekend and, for pedestrian safety and club hopping, that kind of thing. But that's not the norm now. And when you have more deserted streets, you get more vandalism, more petty crime, more tents popping up in front of businesses, which is an issue for them, broken wind, all that stuff, stoop poopers, which is real. And that all creates an environment.
Yeah, Wait, what? People who poop on your stoop?
People poop on stoops, poop stoopers. Y'all know to have that in D.C.? I'm pretty sure you do.
We do.
You do.
We probably do.
So all of that creates an environment where citizens stay away from certain areas. And then they start seeing downtown is not safe, dirty, et cetera, all that stuff. And who is having to deal with all that are the businesses down there trying to make it. So as stats have proved, what makes a city street safer sometimes isn't more cops. It's actually people existing in those spaces. So it would be a logical conclusion that focusing on a thriving nightlife could positively impact downtown overall at all times of the day.
So what kind of issues do night mayors work on? And why is it important to have a specific person whose job it is to focus on those issues? And the more specific and vivid you can be here, the better.
Okay, so from my understanding, they act as like liaisons between city officials, police, residents, and businesses to manage and support the nightlife industry. They're facilitating permitting, zones, all that stuff for the clubs, venues, restaurants. They're also coming up with cultural activities and promoting them. They're essentially that like link between the 9 to 5 city hall schedule and the nightlife's actual working hours. When we had Raheem on, he said the most consistent issue he was dealing with at that point were noise complaints. So not sure how that would play out in Portland since our downtown does not have a high concentration of residents, but that's what he was dealing with in Philly.
And why does that need I guess my question is really, why does that need a person who is, I love the title of night mayor or even night economy manager. I love it as just like, it seems cool, but why do they need it and not, there are cops, there are bureaucrats who have jobs like issuing alcohol and beverage permits. Why do they need to have somebody specifically who is tasked with this?
Because I think a lot of nightlife industry feels ignored by City Hall. They don't think there's enough cops, or if there are cops, they're not really focusing on the things that matter to them, like vandalism, just things that would affect their business. I know DC has a night mayor for very similar reasons. I know New York has one. So I think these are issues that have been figured like, oh, we're not really paying attention. They're not coming to City Hall. They're not coming to these meetings because they're asleep or, they're too busy because they're working. So I think that this niche was created out of necessity.
If you were the night mayor, what would be the first thing you would do?
If I were the night mayor, oh my God, it would be a nightmare for one. I think the first thing I would do was I would try to prove that it was working and that my job was needed. I come from a science background. So I would immediately be like, this is the quadrant that we're putting resources into and that this is our test quadrant. And we're going to see if this quadrant, if all the things that we're hoping happen here. And if they don't, freaking fire me, put that money somewhere else, hire one more cop. I don't know. So I think that's what I would do is I would literally give myself limitations because I think the issue when people come up with these jobs or these ideas, especially in a super liberal city because we're all pie in the sky, big hearts, bright eyes, we just cannot wait to spend taxpayer money. We bite
the
off.
The truest thing you've ever said, Claudia.
But it's true. We bite off way too big, And so I would be like, okay, what is the smallest bite we could do to prove that this is working?
That's a really smart. I hope that your city council chair is listening to that. Which cities in America and in Europe have nightmares? You mentioned New York, my city of DC, Philly. It sounds like, are there others and also European ones?
Yeah, well, San Francisco, Boston, Atlanta. There's actually a lot. There's like between 15 to 20 American cities with active nightmares. The concept did start in Europe, so there are like way more European cities with active nightmares. I think the position originated in the Netherlands. In Amsterdam, though, they actually vote for their nightmare. It's like a for reals thing. And I think most American cities, they're like assigned, like this guy or this gal. So it's Amsterdam,
That would be an important job.
It is a very important job.
It probably is more important than being the day mayor of Amsterdam, honestly.
Really?
So when you look at cities that have nightmares, how has the nightlife of those cities changed? What do they say about that? What improvements or differences do people cite in those kinds of cities?
Right. Well, I just want to specify I'm not a night mayor scholar, just immediately. So I can't speak for every city with one, but from the reading I've done and the single night mayor that I was able to interview, he was saying cultural activities increased, foot traffic increased, profits definitely increased. He gave us like an insane number that I couldn't verify, but it was just like, what? You know what I mean? Just like hundreds and thousands of dollars. Safety increased. All good things. Again, the biggest gripe I heard was that once you get a lively nightlife, it gets loud and that neighbors can get annoyed about it. So it appears that this is a good thing overall for cities that have these nightlives.
Are there problems that don't necessarily get fixed by nightmares? It sounds like one problem that gets created may be noise because people are so bustling and they're out and about. Are there others that you've heard about that a nightmare does not really diminish because it's not accessible to them?
Well, I just think that like the core social ills of our society, like homelessness and drug addiction, I'm sure a livelier downtown will clean up, quote unquote, the appearance of these issues, but they're just going to find a home elsewhere. I don't think it's solving homeless. Like you might have less poop stoopers, but they'll be pooping somewhere else, Like I don't imagine that that's going to go away entirely.
Does the nightmare actually work at night? Is the job
Yeah.
you're like on 4 to midnight, or do you work during the day and then you occasionally once in a while you'll go out at night just to see how things are going? But basically your job is like everybody else's job. It's kind of a 9 to 5er.
Well, when I was talking to Raheem, Philly's nightmare, he was like, yo, last night I was going to events, 11 p.m., midnight, visiting this business owner who wanted to talk to me, this business owner. And then I had to be at a city hall meeting at 8 a.m. So his schedule sounded painful to me. He must be sneaking naps. But it sounds like, again, since you're working with both of these communities, you have to physically be there or else you're not the nightmare. And you also have to like run back to City Hall and like figure it out with them. So gosh, I don't know. It doesn't sound like an ideal schedule.
Yeah, I mean, I guess because if it's a coordination job, coordination requires coordinating with both groups of people, the people who are working at night and all these people who don't work at night, but who issued those permits or who are the shift in charge of the cops who work at night. And those people are not working necessarily at 9 p.m. And so, yeah, that must be a very complicated schedule for people.
Yeah.
So what actually has to happen in Portland for you guys to get a nightmare? The president is nightmare curious, but what else has to happen for you guys to get this person? And how much, what kind of budget do you need for a nightmare?
So, I mean, the first thing that has to happen, it has to be approved by all of city council. There's 12 of them. And I'm sure the mayor and then our new city administrator has to be like, yeah, we have the money, or like, we're also on board. They're going to have to build the system of communication within City Hall, like how they're going to help shape policy, move permitting along. Because if they're like promising this person is going to, because also our permitting office, lovely people, just endless, just vague, just whole of red tape. So how are they going to be able to push stuff along further than them themselves alone? You know, the business owners by themselves, escalate complaints, all of that. They all got to figure that out, I would imagine. Because if they hire this person and they're like, oh, I don't know. I mean, like that's a person set up for failure.
And so far there hasn't been legislation. It's just why are they not getting around to it? I guess if you guys were talking about this a year ago, why aren't they getting around to it now?
Well, you know, as you know, with funding and stuff, it's always like what pot of money it comes from. So, yeah, we might have $500,000, but was it assigned for this or for that? Or, you know, do we have general fund money for this? Do we have, and we don't, David, we're actually in a deficit. Like, we're not flush with cash right now. Neither is our county or whatever, because of all of the issues that we've had to deal with, our housing crisis. So I think any kind of new expenditure has to like really be vetted. I mean, in order for the city to approve it, but also for like the community to be like, nice, good job. Because if they do this and all the rest of Portland is like, we don't need a freaking nightmare, we need more housing, that's going to be an issue, you know, for the people who want to get voted back in, all that stuff. So I think that's why they're so careful. And again, David, I swear to God, it's just like me yelling, we need a nightmare. And like, I think I love that you're like down for the idea, but I know that City Hall is thinking about it, but I don't think it's like the first, like they wake up and they're like, what's up with this nightmare? Like, that's really gonna, you know, like, I think they're thinking about it now because they really are thinking about our downtown core.
I mean, it's kind of, I don't know. It's one of these ideas I remember when you talked to me about this a year ago, and then when you guys pitched this as an episode for Your City Could Be Better, I was like, this is so obvious. This is such an obviously good idea.
Yeah.
It's so obvious that there's this whole like incredibly important experience of city life, which is, why do people live in cities? One big reason they live in cities and not in other places is that cities hustle and bustle, and they hustle and bustle at times of day that like small towns don't. And those times of day are night. And yet the city, the kind of official city, except for cops, basically shuts down and sort of leaves. It's like, oh, you guys do your seamy stuff at night, and we'll check in with you in the morning.
Yeah.
Check in on all the crime. But it's so obvious that like, oh yeah, if you just sort of applied some level of care and attention to the specific problems that come with the night, you'll get a better result. It's such a good idea. I can't believe you have to convince your city council president and your mayor that this is a real stretch.
Yeah. I mean, we did have conversations with them. And I think at first they thought it would be like an honorary position. And I had to be like, you got to pay this person. This is a real
No, it's
job.
not.
This
Yeah,
isn't
it's a job.
walking around with a sash
Yeah.
and things get done because somebody's wearing a sash at night.
Right.
That's not how that works.
Right.
But like, no, I think they're for reals thinking about it. I hope that it does get escalated. But I also trust that they kind of also know what's coming along the pike with like expenses, funding, all that. And if they're just like, we can't afford it right now, I would also believe them because we're covering all of the expenditures, all of the federal cuts that are hitting us and why it kind of hits harder for Portland because of our specific issues. So I understand what they're trying to balance. But if it's a good enough idea, and our mayor is pretty ambitious and he really was like, I'm going to fix downtown. I feel like this is a perfect idea to start moving that along.
Yeah. Come on, Mayor. All right. Last question of this segment, Claudia. What can your city could be better listeners in other cities take from this conversation to help make their city better?
Maybe the takeaway is that if your city downtown core is struggling post-pandemic, like I know a lot of cities are, because I think those cities relied on workers rather than residents, like a lot of downtown cores. Focusing on nightlife, the arts, cultural events, maybe even getting more people interested in moving downtown is a viable option. I feel like that's where my city is going, and I'm personally very excited about it. For example, David, we just heard about the Pink Light District that's forming downtown. This is a poetic vision that it's starting from the pink blossoms of our cherry trees on our waterfront to the Big Pink, which is one of our most famous buildings downtown. You might have seen it when you visited, David. It's famously big and pink. So this Pink Light District, it's going to be amazing. I'm already so excited. It's going to have public markets, outdoor stuff, live music, food, drink. It's happening, and I'm so excited.
I'm going to answer my own question, which we've digressed on. I mean, it's obvious. Like one of the things, the question was, what can people in other cities do? This idea of the nightmare is an idea essentially that Claudia and the other CityCast Portland folks planted. Like it was a completely citizen driven. So if you're in a city which could use something like this, maybe your mayor and your city council just don't know about this concept. Bring it to their attention.
Yeah.
That would be my answer.
Okay. See, David, you should have just answered. I don't know why you're asking.
I should have just answered. I don't know why you're here. David, what do you think?
Well, I don't know. David, I think it's a great idea.
I would say the Big Pink District. Claudia, we have one other second segment here.
Okay.
Our Word on the Street segment. And our Word on the Street segment, slightly lighter, although how could we get even lighter? But we are. So Portland is a city that brands itself as weird. And it's like Austin does that as well. And there's some other cities that do that. But what do you do when things that are weird get normalized? And one of our colleagues, Elizabeth, was pointing out that you guys popularized the idea of the naked bike ride. But now the naked bike ride is like a thing that happens in lots of other cities. So how do you stay weird enough to be like cool, but not so weird as to be unappealing, but also not so normal as to just be like every other city? So how do you live on that line?
I wasn't aware we were branding ourselves as weird. I think those allegations are outside perceptions of fact-based truths just about my city. It's not like a careful marketing ploy. Do you remember that we had like this all-staff meeting yesterday, and you
I
asked,
do remember.
Yeah,
I was there.
You were there, right?
I was there.
You were there. And you asked all the new employees, what is the thing? Because that's how you introduce yourself to CityCast. What is it, the top thing you love about your city? And our latest, our CityCast Portland team member, new one, Grace, was basically saying, hey, I have a neighbor who walks his dog with his pet crow on his head. And that is my favorite thing about my neighborhood. And that dude is just living his life, David. Like that dude pays his taxes, has kids. It's is not existing to freak out the man. Also, know that dude is probably envied by everyone in the neighborhood because we all want a crow best friend. Like that's a Portland flex. And I also think that like keep Portland weird or keep anything weird is not fully understood. For one, the originator of that slogan is Austin, which is why I was like, yeah, we steal a lot of stuff. That's Austin. And they were using that in their like downtown area to remind people to shop local and keep their local identity from being diluted by what was coming, which was big box stores, Starbucks. So what that slogan to me actually means is stay true to your roots. Like stay true to what makes you weird. Not like, hey, let's go freak out Fox, or like, let's put on a Mad Hatter hat and ride a unicycle. Though that does happen, but that's just what living your truth looks like to some people, unfortunately. And this is just splitting hairs. World Naked Bike Ride is a worldwide event that was started in Vancouver, BC, way before Portland started ours. So I think Portland is just known for it now because of the protests, and we do consistently have like the largest one. But now we have two. Why? You didn't ask, but I'm gonna do it, David. I'm gonna answer my own question. We have one because an offshoot started saying, hey, that first one got too commercial, man. It just didn't stay weird. So now we have two. I hope I answered your question.
Competing naked bike rides.
Yeah.
Man, we're going to get even more naked.
More naked.
That did answer my question. I mean, I live in a city, Washington, D.C. is a city which is aggressively unweird. That is not part of our branding. We don't go for that. And so I always find it enjoyable to go to cities which do aspire to that. But I also wonder about that. How much of it is marketing? How much of it is just like, actually, we attract people who are willing to live outside the bounds, the non-crow bounds that other people live by?
I don't think no one's running for Senate. You know what I mean? Like in Portland, no one's like looking out for their political career. So I think we are a little freer.
That is so false. There's so many people in Portland who are looking out for their political career. You guys have senators, you have members of Congress. In fact, you had on your biking congressman last year before he retired. What's his name?
Blumenauer.
Earl Blumenauer.
Yeah,
Earl Blumenauer.
We have the normal amount of senators, and we don't have an entire city full of them. But David, you've been to Portland. Like, what did you think of it? If we have time and you feel comfortable, could you also share that story of that person who thought the dog treats were snacks? Because that's my favorite story. When you were telling me
I'm trying to remember this. We were doing at 503 Day, which is the celebration of Portland. There was a CityCast had sponsored this wonderful event that you were the MC of, celebrating 503 Day, the area code of Portland, and you got it declared a city holiday. Wonderful. And we had a CityCast tent, and we had dog treats out because it was such an open area and people could bring their dogs. And now I can't even remember, but somebody came on and ate one.
But you said he was talking to you and kept eating, and you said nothing.
Oh, I don't remember that.
That was my favorite part. It's like, David, what did you? You're like, I said nothing. He was enjoying his life.
I mean, most dog treats are very edible. They just are bland.
To me, I was like, we gotcha, David. We gotcha. You just let someone exist eating dog treats. So I would have been like, yo, sir.
Claudia, we've gotten really far off topic. That was during the day. That wasn't even a night event. That was a daytime event.
That was so funny, though.
Claudia Meza, host of CityCast Portland, thank you for coming on. Your City Could Be Better. Listen to Claudia every weekday on CityCast Portland. As you can imagine, it is a fun show because you can hear that mischievous Meza style on this pod.
Thanks for having me, David.
Bye, Claudia.
Bye.
That is all for today's episode of Your City Could Be Better. I'm your host, David Plotz. Our producers this week were Lizzie Goldsmith, Elizabeth Kama, Priyanka Tilve, Claudia Meza, and John Natariani. Our music is by Carl Christensen. If you are enjoying Your City Could Be Better, please tell your friends, rate the show, leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. We will be back next week with another conversation about how your city could be better. See ya.